Chicago's South Side has long been a place of contrast. On one block, families worked hard to build better lives, while only a few streets away, violence and poverty often shaped the future of young people before they even had a chance to choose a different path. Throughout the 2000s and early 2010s, certain neighborhoods became known across the country because of the growing drill music scene, but behind the music were real communities dealing with real consequences. Among those neighborhoods was Oblock, a section of the Parkway Gardens housing complex that gained a reputation far beyond Chicago. To outsiders, it became a name frequently mentioned in rap songs, interviews, and online discussions. To the people who lived there, however, it was simply home. It was a place where friendships were formed at a young age, where people grew up together, and where many residents felt a strong sense of loyalty to their neighborhood. One of the names that would eventually become well known within Oblock was Big A. Long before his name appeared in social media posts and conversations about Chicago street history, he was simply a young boy growing up on the South Side. Like many others around him, he was raised in an environment where opportunities were limited and dangers were never far away. The streets around him influenced daily life, and the choices available to many young people were often shaped by the conditions they faced. As the years passed, Big A became a familiar figure in Oblock. Older than many of the younger members who would later gain attention through drill music, he earned respect from people in the neighborhood. Friends described him as someone whose presence was known throughout the area. His name carried weight, and many younger individuals looked up to him because of his reputation and the relationships he had built over the years. At the same time, tensions between rival neighborhoods continued to grow. Long-standing disputes and cycles of retaliation were becoming part of everyday life on Chicago's South Side. Each new incident seemed to deepen divisions and create even more hostility between groups. For many residents, simply making it through the day without trouble was becoming increasingly difficult. As the conflict intensified, the names of different neighborhoods started appearing more frequently online and in music. Young people who might otherwise have remained unknown suddenly found themselves discussed by thousands of strangers on the internet. The attention brought fame to some, but it also brought greater scrutiny and even more tension. Big A lived through these changes as Oblock's reputation expanded beyond Chicago. He witnessed the neighborhood gain national attention while simultaneously dealing with the realities that existed behind the headlines. The friendships, rivalries, and losses that shaped the community were becoming impossible to ignore. And as the years moved forward, a series of events would unfold that would forever change the lives of countless people connected to these neighborhoods. Some names would become famous, others infamous, and many would become remembered only through stories told years later. Before we continue, if you enjoy detailed true crime and street history documentaries that focus on the facts behind the headlines, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to The Dark Evidence, and share it with others who enjoy this type of content. Because what began as neighborhood rivalries was about to evolve into a story that would capture attention far beyond Chicago, and Big A would find himself at the center of one of its most talked about chapters. As the early 2010s unfolded, tensions between neighborhoods on Chicago's South Side continued to rise. What had once been local disputes known mainly to residents gradually became visible to a much larger audience. Social media was changing everything. Arguments that previously stayed on the streets were now being displayed online, where thousands of people could watch conflicts unfold in real time. For young people growing up in these neighborhoods, loyalty often meant everything. Friendships formed during childhood became bonds that many felt obligated to defend no matter the consequences. When one person was harmed, emotions spread throughout entire groups of friends and relatives. Anger, grief, and the desire for retaliation often fueled a cycle that seemed impossible to stop. During this period, one name began attracting increasing attention throughout Chicago's street culture: Akira K.I. Barnes. Even at a young age, K.I. became one of the most talked about figures associated with STL/EBT. Her name frequently appeared in online discussions, neighborhood conversations, and eventually in countless videos examining the ongoing conflict between rival groups. Supporters viewed her as loyal to her friends and neighborhood, while rivals often mentioned her when discussing the growing tensions between different areas. As KI's reputation grew, so did the attention surrounding the conflict itself. Every new incident seemed to create more questions than answers. Rumors spread quickly, and stories often traveled far beyond the people who actually knew those involved. What remained clear, however, was that violence was continuing to affect young lives across multiple neighborhoods. Meanwhile, in Oblock, respected figures such as Big A continued navigating an environment where danger could appear without warning. The neighborhood had already experienced significant losses, and many residents carried memories of friends and loved ones who were no longer there. Every gathering, every conversation, and every day spent outside came with an awareness that circumstances could change instantly. The rise of drill music added another layer to the situation. Songs, videos, and social media posts brought national attention to local rivalries. People across the country became familiar with names they otherwise would never have heard. While some artists found opportunities through music, the attention also amplified existing conflicts. The streets and the internet became increasingly connected, creating a situation where real-life events and online discussions constantly influenced one another. As months turned into years, the atmosphere grew heavier. Families worried about their children. Friends worried about each other. And throughout Chicago's South Side, many people wondered whether the cycle of violence would ever come to an end. Yet the most tragic chapters were still ahead. The names that dominated conversations during this period would soon become connected to events that would shock entire communities. One of those events would involve K.I., whose death would become one of the most discussed cases in Chicago street history. The aftermath would leave lasting questions, fuel years of speculation, and deepen tensions that were already at a breaking point. And for people like Big A and others living through those years, the consequences of that tragedy would continue to echo long after the headlines faded. By 2014, the atmosphere surrounding Chicago's South Side had become increasingly tense. Years of conflict, loss, and retaliation had left deep scars on multiple neighborhoods. Every new incident seemed to add another layer to an already complicated and painful history. For many residents, violence was no longer something they heard about from a distance, it was something that affected people they knew personally. Then came the event that would become one of the most discussed cases in Chicago street history. On April 11, 2014, Gakira K.I. Barnes was shot and killed on the south side of Chicago. She was only 17 years old. News of her death spread rapidly throughout the city. Friends, family members, and people from various neighborhoods reacted with shock. Within hours, social media was flooded with messages, tributes, and countless discussions about what had happened. Because K.I. had become such a well-known figure, her death immediately attracted attention far beyond the people who knew her personally. Rumors began spreading almost instantly. Some claimed to know what happened. Others claimed to know who was responsible. Yet as the discussions grew louder online, many questions remained unanswered. What could not be denied was the impact her death had on the ongoing conflict. Emotions were already running high before April 2014, but afterward, many people believed tensions became even worse. Friends mourned her loss while rivals continued watching events unfold from their own perspectives. The divisions that already existed between neighborhoods appeared to deepen. The internet played a major role in shaping public perception. Videos, posts, and discussions circulated constantly, creating an environment where speculation often traveled faster than confirmed information.
I see Kyra. That shit was fucked up, shorty. That shit was crazy as hell. Bro.
That's your sister.
That shit was crazy. Cause she was like, you hit? I'm like, yeah. She what? On my leg. Oh, you hit? She like, yeah, what? She like,
Oh, she was still talking at that point.
yeah.
Oh. But she's been hit 9 times at that point. Has she been shot before then?
No.
Oh, that was the first time ever. Does she survive to the point of the ambulance getting her? Or
She survived all the way to the hospital. I don't even know how Kyra died, bro. Kyra was cool, gang. Like, she on the porch like this. She sitting there. She like, it hurt. I'm like, what hurt? She like the one on my neck.
Among those names would be individuals closely connected to Oblock, people whose deaths would once again send shockwaves through their neighborhood. One of those individuals was Cheno. And his story would become another tragic chapter in a conflict that seemed to have no end. The years following K.I.'s death were marked by continued uncertainty and loss across several South Side neighborhoods. While social media conversations focused on rumors, fears, and ongoing rivalries, residents were dealing with a far more personal reality. Families were attending funerals. Friends were grieving people they had grown up with. Communities that had already experienced years of violence continued searching for answers and hoping for peace. Among the names that carried significance in Oblock was Cheno. To those who knew him, he was more than just a name mentioned in online discussions. He was a friend, a familiar face, and someone connected to the neighborhood's daily life. Like many young men raised in that environment, his life was shaped by the circumstances around him, including the friendships, loyalties, and conflicts that existed throughout the area. When Cheno was killed in 2016, the news spread quickly through Oblock and surrounding neighborhoods. Friends and relatives expressed their grief, while social media once again became filled with reactions, tributes, and speculation. As with many high-profile cases connected to Chicago's street conflicts, numerous rumors emerged regarding the circumstances surrounding his death. Some people claimed to know exactly what happened, while others disputed those accounts. Over time, conflicting stories continued circulating online, making it difficult to separate fact from speculation. What remained undeniable was the impact his death had on those who knew him. Another familiar face was gone. Another family was left mourning. Another chapter had been added to a cycle of violence that seemed determined to continue repeating itself. For Big A, the losses were impossible to ignore. By this point, he had spent years watching friends, associates, and people from neighboring communities lose their lives. The environment around him had become increasingly unpredictable. Every new tragedy served as a reminder of how quickly circumstances could change. Despite everything, Big A remained one of the more respected figures connected to Oblock. His reputation had been built over years of relationships and experiences within the neighborhood. Younger members knew who he was, and his name continued to carry influence among people familiar with the area's history. But as 2016 continued, many residents understood a difficult reality. Violence rarely followed predictable patterns. It did not matter how respected someone was or how long they had been part of a neighborhood. The dangers that existed on the South Side affected everyone. And soon, a tragedy would unfold that would place Big A's name at the center of one of the most talked about stories connected to Oblock. The news would spread rapidly. Rumors would emerge almost immediately. Questions would follow for years. For those who knew him personally, however, the story was much simpler. Another life was about to be lost. And Oblock was about to experience yet another devastating blow. By the second half of 2016, Big A remained one of the most recognized and respected figures connected to Oblock. Unlike some of the younger names that were gaining attention through music and social media, Big A's reputation had been built over years of living in the neighborhood and maintaining relationships with people who knew him personally. To many residents, he represented a connection to an earlier generation that had witnessed the rise of the conflicts that would eventually bring national attention to Chicago's South Side. But despite the respect attached to his name, Big A lived in the same environment that had already claimed the lives of many others. The violence affecting the area did not distinguish between the well-known and the unknown. It had already taken friends, rivals, and countless young people whose stories never reached a wider audience. Then came the news that shocked many people connected to Oblock. In 2016, Big A was killed. As details began emerging, social media immediately filled with reactions. Friends posted tributes. People expressed disbelief. Others shared memories of moments they had spent with him over the years. For many residents, his death felt like the loss of someone whose presence had always been part of the neighborhood. At the same time, numerous rumors began circulating online regarding the circumstances surrounding his death. Different versions of events appeared across social media platforms, discussion forums, and videos. Some accounts contradicted others, while many claims could not be independently verified. As with many high-profile deaths connected to Chicago street conflicts, separating confirmed facts from speculation became increasingly difficult. What remained clear was the emotional impact of the loss. People who knew Big A personally focused less on internet theories and more on the reality that someone they cared about was gone. His death became another painful reminder of how many lives had already been affected by years of violence and retaliation. As the years passed, the names of K.I., Cheno, Big A, and many others continued appearing in documentaries, songs, interviews, and online discussions. Their stories became part of a larger narrative about Chicago's South Side, a narrative filled with friendship, loyalty, loss, and consequences that extended far beyond any single neighborhood. For some viewers, these stories are fascinating because of the mystery surrounding certain events. For others, they serve as reminders of how quickly violence can change lives forever. Behind every headline, every rumor, and every social media debate were real people whose families were left carrying the weight of those losses long after public attention moved elsewhere. The deaths of K.I., Cheno, and Big A remain among the most discussed topics connected to Chicago street history, not simply because of the speculation that followed them, but because they represent a period when entire communities were deeply affected by an ongoing cycle of conflict. As we close this investigation, one question remains: how many lives might have been different if that cycle had ended sooner? If you enjoyed this documentary from the Dark Evidence, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with others interested in true crime and street history, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next investigation.
Made Chicago legend, shit, that was just about business. Said I won't go this to dead, and okay, I did it. But nigga, fuck T-Roy and OD, them dead bitches. You heard about J Money? Yeah. Niggas getting dead the same way. Bitch, don't play with gang. You don't want Lil' Bro in your gang, wait. I know you heard about Lil' Boo, yeah. They left his shit by tight. Bullets was hitting him, he was singing like Mariah. Yeah, you heard about Shariah. I know that hurt the heart. He probably walking, listening to his iPod. Yeah, you heard about Lil Steve. Yeah, I heard about that too. But fuck him though, he a pack too. If we ever said it's up that bitch, I swear to God we mean it. We already in hell, bitch, since 12 we been demons. Ever since I signed the deal, all these bitches on my penis. Boy, you ain't gon' squeeze it, you around for no reason. Boy, what block you from? Let us know so we can spin it. Made Chicago legend, shit, that was just about business. Said I won't go this to dead, and okay, I did it. But nigga, fuck T-Roy and OD, them dead bitches. Not for real, fuck them niggas. All my ops, bitch. Heard he mixing brick name. No, he didn't. While bro was selling rocks and blows, you was somewhere swinging. When Baldy got his ass killed, they ain't stand on business. I go to D-Thing, gravy, take a piss on that shit. If Keita was alive, I'd make that bitch suck my dick. If I got a full of mission, swear to God, I won't fail. But I can't let them see my face, cause they might tell. If we ever said it's up that bitch, I swear to God, we mean it. We already in hell, bitch, since 12, we been demons. Ever since I signed the deal, all these bitches on my penis. Boy, you ain't gon' squeeze it, you around for no reason. Boy, what block you from? Let us know so we can spin it. Made Chicago legend, shit, that was just about business. Said I won't go this to dead, and okay, I did it. But nigga, fuck T-Roy and OD, them dead bitches.